G&T show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advice. Live long and prosper, bitches.
Are friends with benefits?
Speaking of having a good time, Terry.
Dayton broke the G&T show. This is now the David Mack
Appreciation Hour. You assholes.
What is it about this guy that people love him so much?
With his purple velvet cape and his crown. I thought it was a little much when he had us carry him in the studio on a throne. I am awesome! Look what I have done! Look what I have brought upon the world!
There is an urge to go, yeah.
I heard rumors that you might be working on something else, but we won't prod much. I was going to say it.
I'm going to pry a little.
Dare you! How dare you ask me to change it? Do you not understand the majesty of my genius? And the guy sitting next to me looked at me like he was, like I'd cramped in his hat.
Yeah, it's the professionalism that sells the show. That's right.
And welcome to this episode of G&T Supplemental Logs. Another very special guest this week with this log devoted entirely to him. And there she is, to my left, your right, twerking like Miley Cyrus in the same outfit. It's Terry.
I'm so glad I didn't watch that show.
Yeah, I didn't either, but I saw the social media outrage. And to my right, your left, dressed as Beetlejuice so that Terry can twerk with him, Ceridium.
Kapla! Hello, everyone.
And if you couldn't tell by the attitude already, our special guest this week, none other than the man, the myth, the legend. Just ask him, Dayton Ward.
Hello.
How you doing today, Dayton?
We're all twerking, okay.
No, Terry's twerking.
Okay, well,
That should frighten everybody.
It
really should.
I had to explain to my wife what that was.
Well, welcome back to the G&T show, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You didn't have
It's been a whole 2 weeks since we talked, right?
I know. It was awesome to have you at the G&T booth. Glad that we were able to get some of the books out.
I thought we did pretty well.
I think
I don't have a final count, but I think Mike said it was
72,
75, something like that.
Something like that.
Pretty good. So yeah, we owe a debt of gratitude to the folks at CBS Consumer Products.
Yes, we
for hooking
do.
us up. John Van Sitters and Marion Cordry. Thank you once again.
Thank you, JVC.
You
Kevin
rock.
Kevin and I thank you all for hosting us at your booth throughout the weekend.
Oh, we had a
It was lot of
blast.
fun. We had a lot of fun.
Good. Well, I'm glad. It's going to be interesting. Now, I take it now next year, are you guys going to refocus on heading over to Shore Leave?
I think that's the plan because Seekers is going to be premiering at that convention. So I think we'll probably be going because I think people want to talk about that, or they will.
Sure.
If they're not pissed at us about what comes between now and then.
And would that be the fall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a reason to be pissed off at you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the first book's official publication date is tomorrow, but people are already getting it, and I'm already hearing rumblings. So because of the things that happen,
Bastards.
Do you find? I mean, I don't know how. Do you and the Trek authors in general? Do you find that there's much more nerd rage about the post Nemesis novels than there are about the original cast novels of like the Vanguard series?
I don't. I mean, every book series has its hardcore fans and the people who couldn't care less, and then everybody else in between. I mean, I don't. Every once in a while, we get a really spirited response, from a reader, but I don't know that it's definitely not reaching, Ben Affleck, Miley Cyrus levels of nerd rage. But I mean, if people don't talk about what happens in the first book of the fall, I will be disappointed because definitely a game changer.
Says the man who fucked the entire universe with his Andorian situation.
It got better. I mean, they it happened. It's like, I mean, they kill off characters and they get better. Things happen. People break up. They get back together. It's
Cats and dogs are living together.
Cats and dogs will live together for a while. Yeah,
Klingons are collecting tribbles.
So yeah, it'll be it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what people are saying, because then they have to figure out over the next 4 months what we're going to do with all the various plotty threads that are dangling now.
Well, I'm looking forward. Now, David R. George III wrote the first book, correct?
Yes, he wrote the first book. It's called Revelation and Dust. And it's, like I said, its official publication date is tomorrow, August the 20th. 27th or whenever, because I don't. When is this going to go live, or when are y'all going to release this podcast?
Well, after.
Yeah, I was going to say by the time it comes out, it'll have been out for a while. But then Una McCormick is bringing up, and she'll be batting second with The Crimson Shadow. That'll be the September book, or it'll come out the last week in September. And then David Mack will follow up with A Ceremony of Losses. Then for November is Jim Swallow with The Poison Chalice, and then I'll be out December 30th with Peaceable Kingdoms. So by the end of the year, we will have pissed off a number of people, or not, depending on who's.
Or not, yeah.
I mean,
you'll probably no. Knowing you guys, you'll probably piss me off 3 or 4 times. But
well, I mean, it's not like we sit
around.
around going, how do we piss them off this time? It's not like that, but I mean, it's definitely, like I said, it's a game changer. It's going to shuffle the pieces on the board a little bit, and then but we have at least in my eyes, I'm hoping that the stage will be set by the time we're done with these 5 books for heading off in a different direction. 24th century novels that hopefully people will like.
What is the time frame that the fall takes place in?
Late
rough star date.
It's late. I don't know the star dates, but it's late 2385. So like October to November of 2385.
Okay.
So, and then and all 5 books, everything in the 5 books takes place within a single window of 60 days.
Wow.
So there's in fact there's even various threads from a couple of the books that take place at the same time, even though they're involving different characters in different locations. So, but like every book will have a timestamp. Every book will have a historian's note in the front that grounds it with respect to the other books and certain events from not just books, but the canon as well, like to get you so that you know where you are placement wise.
So not unlike the style that you guys had in the Typhon Pack books, where
it's even more connected than the Typhon Pack books.
Okay.
Like I said, because it's such a short window of time, and there's definitely some handing off of plot threads, and some of the characters appear in more than one book. So it's much more interconnected this time. There's a lot more back and forth emailing, Skype sessions and whatnot to make sure everybody was dancing in step with each other. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. So, in fact, Jim Swallow and I had like a 2-hour Skype conversation to work out plot threads that would be shared between our 2 books. Either he would set something in motion.
I would love to have been a fly on the wall for that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. He actually helped me work out a lot of the plot kinks, because I basically, batting cleanup, I'm like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do with all this? And so he helped me work it out so that it would, hopefully make sense. So we'll see.
I'm looking forward to it. Again, for all of our listeners, that Star Trek The Fall, correct? It was just because it involves pretty much all of the post-Nemesis Star Trek. It's got DS9.
It's got DS9 and Next Gen are the real player, or the prime players, but the Titan crew factors in, the Aventine crew factors in. There's some books that focus mostly on a couple of the characters, and then like for example, my book is pretty much a Next Generation book with a couple of guest characters thrown in. Like there's some people from Titan and some people from DS9 thrown in.
Is Kirsten Beyer pretty much doing the Voyager stuff? Is it kind of worked out so she's dealing with that since they're off?
Yeah,
she's Delta Quadrant again.
She's off in the Delta Quadrant, so she's kind of insulated from all this. Even though I expect she'll reference or pick up anything that's relevant, in the course of telling her stories. But the Voyager and the little fleet there, they're off in the Delta Quadrant doing their own thing. So
getting smaller every day.
Yeah. So attrition sucks in the Delta Quadrant.
It really does.
So this doesn't involve her, and the New Frontier crew, which is kind of in, I'm not really sure what the status of New Frontier is. So they're not factoring in this series either. But there's some cameos from other people. Like be on the lookout for Captain Sonia Gomez will show up in my book.
Nice.
Briefly.
Cool.
I hadn't had a chance to write for her for a while. So, and a couple other surprises that I'm keeping under my hat. So
cool.
What character do you enjoy writing for the most?
Well, in which time frame?
I was going to say, you have to narrow it down a little bit. As far as the Next Generation or the 24th century, I've only really written Next Gen. I haven't had a chance to write DS9 or Voyager. So, I'll have to stick with Next Gen. But I like writing for Picard in particular. He's, especially now, since they kind of let him grow a little bit as a person. Now he's a dad and all that kind of stuff. So I can identify with some of the things that he's dealing with working with a toddler. So it's kind of fun to put some of that stuff into it.
Terry?
I actually like
I'm keeping
writing.
my mouth shut up. No, it's fine.
Well, deal with it. Deal with it. So.
See? No, and you
The
know
novels
that I
never
said
do
it.
anything. The characters never. Oh, I hate what they're doing. This is why we don't listen to you.
There is, and you know.
I wish the characters would grow. They're just so static. That's why the novels always suck. What do you mean they're marrying him off? You can't do that. Like Affleck was an Oscar award winner, but now he's Batman. Shit. So, all right. So have we hit all the nerd rage points for one conversation? All right.
All I said was that it is a fact pattern I don't like.
Yes, I know.
Be that as it may, if now that I have to deal with it, Dayton is probably the only person I know that writes it well that makes me actually believe it, and that's saying something.
Didn't you say the same thing about Swallow when he was on?
No. Swallow writes the Titan crew. As far as I'm concerned, nobody writes the Titan crew as well as Swallow does. And when it comes to making Picard a believable father, Dayton Ward achieved that.
I like the way that Jim writes the Titan crew, and he did a really great job with them in his book, because the Titan crew factors very heavily in his book. So if you like the way he works with Riker and the gang, then you will definitely like this one.
And that's but that's exactly what I meant. And I've told you that before.
Yeah, I know. I'm just giving you grief because,
It's all right. I can take the grief, and I probably deserve it, because I don't deny that.
On this, she stands as firm as the Rock of Gibraltar.
I am not going to back down on it. No.
Dayton gets that movie quote.
Mm-hmm.
Stop, man. Okay.
The pros from Doper.
That's right. I don't blame you. You were just doing your job.
Picard spawn.
With his 17 names.
Fucking, just don't even start with me on that.
I had nothing to do with the naming. I just said, okay, that's his name, sure. I was going to call him Paul, but or Jake or something.
Skippy Picard.
Yeah.
Skip.
I like that.
Yeah. I don't even know how the name was arrived at, because by the time I was writing the Typhon Pack book, the name had been settled, even though he had not appeared in anything that I know of. That's not true. I'm sorry, I misspoke. He was in or referenced in that tie-in book that Mike Martin wrote for Star Trek Online, The Needs of the Many. So I think that's why the name was settled on as early as it was. But by the time I came into the fold working on Typhon Pack, all that stuff had been settled. And I took heat for the name, and I'm like, I didn't name the fucking kid. And I really don't care, because everybody was, of course, then once I found out that people were pissed about the kid, and not just the kid's name, but the fact that there was a kid in the mix, that's when I started coming up with crap and leaving him on message board postings about how I was going to make him, save the ship with his, he was going to have a growth spurt and pull some kind of miracle out of his playpen or something.
You know what? That would have been the best name, Wesley Picard.
Yeah, no shit. I thought about it. And then, but I mean, I started leaving like smart aleck answers on the bulletin board about how he was going to, we were going to freeze Crusher in stasis, and then the aliens would revive her, but they would have to age the kid in order to save her, and then he would be imbued with all these special powers, and he'd be able to save the day. And people were pissed because they thought I was serious.
Do they not know you?
I can't believe you trolled the boards like that. That is hilarious.
There was a period of time where one of the boards that I used to frequent got infiltrated by a bunch of people who were pissed about what was going on in the books, like when Janeway, with all the stuff with Janeway, all these people that I'd never heard of before, that never bought a book in their life but were pissed about what was going on in the books, they were on the board. So I was just tweaking them every chance I could get.
It's really funny.
Well, I got to tell you that the lovely Miss Byer said to me at shore leave, because I hadn't talked to her in a while, and she's like, "You're really mad at me and you don't want to talk to me anymore." I said, "Why? Why would you think that?" She goes, "Well, I didn't get any feedback from you on my last book, so I figured you were mad I brought Janeway back." I said, "No." I said, "I just got done reading it. I was so backlogged." She was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "You got to listen to the show. I was raving about it."
I gave her grief. I gave her a little grief about it, even though I know that it wasn't her call one way or the other. It was she eventually doing what she and the editor had worked out. But it was like I still gave her grief. I'm like, I can't believe you're bringing her back. God damn it!
But you know what? The story to bring her back was so convoluted. It could have only been Trek. So I admired, and I told her, I said, I got lost in that story because I had no idea who was talking half the time.
I kept telling her, I said, okay, bring her back and then kill her off on the first page of the very next book. And and she was like, "You're an asshole. I love that idea." She's her and I get along so well. She is such a riot.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Sorry, but that's.
I mean, like I'd open the book first line, and then Janeway died. That's how I'd open it.
Or not even just at the funeral.
Yeah, there you go.
She's dead again.
Coming back from the funeral.
And then she dies of something really lame, like a heart attack or something.
She falls down an elevator shaft.
Oh man. That's just
turbo lift accident.
Turbo lift accident. A holodeck malfunction run amok. So that's what we were doing the same thing. We were like, let's do this, and we had the same thing with the data deal with Dave Mack's books. I was like, let's bring them all back and then kill them on the last page. I mean, we entertain a lot of notions in the bar about stuff like this that have no intention of going anywhere. But sometimes we say it because we know people are listening or trying to listen in on our conversations, and we hope that some of this stuff will get leaked to the internet, as like a spoiler or like bleedingcool.com equivalent, that kind of thing, and that way we can refute it later and have fun with it.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just every once in a while we'll say stuff, and I kind of hope that somebody overheard it.
You got to put this in your next author's thing in the back of the book. Dayton Ward, Troller of Trolls.
Troller of Trolls.
I mean, don't get me wrong. 99% of the people who read this stuff are great, are fantastic. They're supportive, and they're a lot of fun to talk to online and at conventions and mail and everything. But there's just that there's that small percentage of people that are never happy about anything, and they never will be happy about anything. And they're the more.
I don't know. I can think of quite a few people who would be totally happy if O'Brien and.
But I mean, there's it's like the people that are pissed about Affleck playing Batman. It's like those guys are never going to be happy about anything. You could have named anybody and somebody would be pissed.
Oh, that's
about
true.
That casting choice. There's just no choice. There's just no pleasing everybody.
Except for the fact that I thought the internet was very, very quiet when the announcement came out that Bryan Cranston was announced as Lex Luthor.
And see, I think
I saw a bunch of stuff saying he was too.
That's why, and that's why everybody went, "Oh yeah, that's good." And so everybody was
too
quiet.
old. Is that what they're saying? He's too old. Who said that?
Yeah.
To be Lex Luthor against that, who's the dude playing Superman?
Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
How do you say his name? Cavill.
To
How
be
could they do that?
this,
I mean, it's not like
to be
Gene
the same
Hackman
age
was
as him.
Christopher
They're not
Reeve's
supposed to be
age.
the same age.
Right.
They don't have to be. They don't need to be the same age.
Well, no, he turned Lex Luthor bald in school.
Depending on what version of whatever you read.
Going with Smallville.
Why am I arguing this? Superman's a dick.
Exactly.
Oh, not you too, Dayton. You just lost cool points with me.
I'm like, whatever. I don't care. I argued against the Superman as a dick thing. Remember? I'm not doing that again.
Okay.
God damn it! Go read the ass date. So. I love Bryan Cranston, so I think that's a great choice.
I do too.
Totally agree.
I mean, everybody sees him. I mean, everybody remembers him. Everybody sees him in that one role now at Breaking Bad, and it's like, dude, he's an actor. He gets paid to inhabit the persona. He'll figure out how to make it work, and he'll be great.
Oh, I think he's going to be amazing, and I think he's also an amazing actor too. So I've always been a big fan of his. Now, when it comes to,
I think he's going to steal the show. Sorry, didn't mean to
what was that,
interrupt.
hon?
I think he's going to steal the show.
Oh, he might. That's okay.
I still think they should have had Captain Raubau as Lex Luthor.
Oh, Captain Raubau? Yeah. Oh,
why?
Here.
So that Lois Lane can stab him with a coat hanger in the first scene, and we can move on to a real villain. What?
You don't like Taryn Fahir?
I like the actor. I just think the whole Raubau's a badass thing is. I was making jokes about that 4 years ago. Captain Raubau is such a badass. I'm like, then why didn't he sidestep the big ass spear?
Because Nero's a Romulan.
Okay.
Romulans kick ass.
Okay.
Really? You, of all people, that which divides?
No, I'm just like, okay, he's such a badass. Yeah, badasses always die in the first 5 minutes of the movie. That's how it always works. Ever. In every that's why they call badasses. I mean, it's like an ironic thing, right? He's a badass ironic. He's a hipster badass. I don't know.
I'm not sure I like this line of thinking from you.
No, the actor. I love the actor. I love Faran Tahir. I think he's a fabulous actor, and I love him in anything I see him in.
He's delicious.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind seeing. Yeah, delicious. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but
I would.
With his nougat center, evidently, according to Terry.
until he starts twerking on the VMAs, then you'll turn a cheek.
Oh,
that's
actually,
right. Go to bed with that visual.
He?
Go to bed with that visual.
No, thank you.
Alrighty then. Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. No, getting back to actual Star Trek.
I was gonna say Star Trek. Yeah.
Oh God.
You can always edit all this shit out between the fall and whatever's coming next.
No,
save it for the after party or whatever.
I've started reading from History Shadow, and I have to say I'm devouring it faster than anything else I've read. I'm really enjoying it. Although I'm finding that I have to go back and watch Little Green Men now.
It's been a while, huh, Michael?
Yeah, it has. When you prepared to watch this, did you watch all of the episodes that you referenced in the book?
Oh yeah, I had to watch. I watched them several times, depending on how much weight they brought to the story or how much they weighed on the story. Yeah, I watched Little Green Men so I could get a feel for Wainwright, the Air Force captain, since he plays such a prominent role throughout the story. Then I went back and I watched Carbon Creek several times to get a handle on Mistral, and then of course, I'd already watched, I've lost count of how many times I watched Assignment Earth, but of course I didn't have an excuse to watch it again, but I'll drag it out. Okay.
Carbon Creek is generally a low rated episode. I enjoyed that episode.
I like it. It's one of my favorites.
I love Carbon Creek.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was on another interview I recently did. I was asked about whether I was a fan of Enterprise, and I said, I didn't hate it when it was first on, but I didn't love it. If you know what I mean. Right. It was just, I watched it out of loyalty, and some episodes grabbed me, and other ones didn't. And then when it was gone, I didn't really. I knew it was a foregone conclusion it was going to get canceled, sooner rather than later. And but having had me rewatch certain episodes for various things, I find myself watching other episodes again just because it's on the same disc. I'll watch that one too. And then I've got a new appreciation for Enterprise. I'm not saying I love it or it's my favorite or anything, but I remember. I remember now. I'm saying there are more episodes that I like than I remember liking the first time. If that makes any sense.
It does.
No, because I'm reading These Are the Voyages, and I'm finding myself watching the first season of the original series again, with each one that I finish reading about in the book, and it kind of brings a whole new appreciation for those as well, especially now knowing the backstories of the original script compared to what wound up on screen.
Yeah, I never hated Enterprise. I would, if anything, if I had to boil it down to one word to describe how I felt about Enterprise, I was just disappointed because of the premise and the promise that it brought, and that they never really executed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at least in my opinion, I didn't think they didn't really deliver on the promise of what they had to offer. I mean, the idea of seeing how it all began is a great hook if you're a fan of this stuff. And I just thought, well, I thought they rushed some things.
They never really got there.
They never really. Well, they did and they didn't. They kind of rushed. No, you're there. They rushed certain things. They didn't take advantage of certain things when it came past, or they zigged where I may have zagged, that kind of thing.
Hello.
We hear you, Terry.
I hear you. Oh, we wait.
Okay.
This is the comedy portion
I'm back.
of our show.
Okay.
Are you back? Hello.
Yeah. Sorry.
you.
Told you.
No, I mean we could hear you the whole time.
Did you? That was weird. Yeah, I lost audio. I couldn't hear you guys at all.
Oh, you could not hear. Okay.
No, I was like, I thought maybe I had gotten disconnected, but I'm glad I did not.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Enterprise.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that you heard, but no, I was saying my biggest thing about Enterprise was just disappointment in the fact that they didn't deliver on what I thought their premise have entailed. They never really embraced themselves as a true prequel to everything until they're partway through their third year, and their fourth year, of course, was the big push to link up with the original series and whatnot. And that was my biggest gripe about it, was like, here you are, a prequel, and we all want to know how it happened, so get on with it. And instead of taking their time and having the storyline evolve organically as far as how they push out and explore, they had to get right out there at the end of the first episode. They're basically doing the original series, exploring strange new worlds. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. What about, all the other stuff that you could have done first?
What do you think of the recent comments from Braga that it was the network that made them put in the Time Wars element? Because knowing Braga's writing,
no, I can see where the suits would have asked for certain things, because they may have been hinky on the idea of this prequel. It's like, well, okay, if it's set 200 years before all the cool stuff, what's cool? So can you link it to the future so that we could have access to the cool stuff? I can see that conversation taking place, knowing what I know about the process of how a show gets developed and how many hands are in the pie and all that kind of stuff. I absolutely have no problem believing that. I also believe that they were doing too much nonstop without a real break. They should have probably taken a break. I don't think they needed to rush another show into production so soon after Voyager wrapped. I think if they'd taken their time and taken a breath and maybe gotten some fresh blood in there a little sooner, we might be talking a different story. But that said, there were a lot of things about it that I really liked. I really loved the look of it. I love the uniforms. I love the uniforms. I think the uniforms are actually the most practical of any of the uniforms. The cast was, there was a lot of potential in that cast that I didn't think they took advantage of. And I'm a fan of Scott Bakula anyway. My only thing about Bakula was I thought he was kind of stiff a lot of the time in his performance. And I don't know how much of that was because of the material and I had heard rumors before that, they used to say to the humans, the actors playing humans should be more understated in their performance in order to bring out the alien qualities of the people wearing the makeup and the prosthetics.
Right.
I don't know how much of that is true. And I don't know how much of that, because having watched Scott Bakula in a variety of other things. The man can act.
I think that it probably wasn't that way in Enterprise, but I know that it was a standard operating procedure on Voyager.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that bled over, but I mean, Scott Bakula can act.
Yeah, he can.
Quantum Leap proved
One
that.
of my favorite shows ever.
So, I some of that, you can't really lay a lot of that stuff on the actors. I mean, and poor Anthony Montgomery, that poor guy was so criminally underused.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a nice guy, at least in my run-ins with him.
He is.
So, yeah. So I was, if some project came along that allowed them to revisit that period, a TV movie or something, I'd watch it. Sure.
I think that for me, I would agree with you in that context. I was disappointed in the fact that, and not unlike what I was disappointed with at times with DS9 as well, and that was, I always felt at times that there was a constriction on a lot of Star Trek, and in DS9, I always felt like if you're going to talk about, if you're going to throw the Federation into a war, do it. Just balls deep. Just go for it.
Yeah.
And in Enterprise, I wanted to see, I started to think towards the end of the 4th season, of course, wow, they're really going to start getting into what a shit ton of crap there must have been on Earth before this. And I thought, wow, they're really going to get into the politics of it. They're really going to get in. And then, of course, they didn't. That's where I got disappointed. I always felt like they always fell short right when they started to do something and do it well.
Well, I mean,
and I felt the same way in that capacity.
Enterprise and Voyager, I think, had different expectations of them because they were on UPN, a network that was at the time trying to fight it out with the other networks. Whereas DS9 always had the luxury of being in syndication and, left alone, I guess, for the most part. Because either attention was on Next Gen and getting them transitioned to movies, and the new Voyager team was getting a lot of attention on UPN, as a startup for the new network, and then DS9 was just kind of off doing its own thing, and so that's why they got away with it as much as they did. Like I said, it'd be interesting to see what Enterprise or another Star Trek show would do in today's environment. Because would it go to cable? Would it go to pay cable? Would it be an online series first? I mean, there's all sorts of options that just aren't that were not available back then that are feasible now. So it's like, okay, I could watch.
Well,
FX
then let's take that and kind of run with it with regards to publishing. I know that the publishing industry, especially with Star Trek, has kind of had some ups and downs, and we were all pretty scared not too long ago, probably just over a year ago, that maybe, especially when there was kind of an announcement that they were going to stop doing Enterprise books.
There was never an announcement of that fact. Whoever told you that was wrong. No, there was never an announcement. No. Whoever told you that told you wrong. There was never an announcement saying they weren't going to do any more Enterprise books. Somebody misinterpreted something and ran with it like fans do. But because Christopher Bennett's been working on that first Enterprise book for a long time. So just like they took their time refiguring out how they wanted to do Voyager, they took their time figuring out how to redo Enterprise. And
well, that's good, because I was glad to see that the Enterprise books were.
But I mean, one of the things that was a factor was, the sales. One of those things that was a factor is the sales. I mean, you have to, these guys are out to make money, and the only way to do it is if whatever you're putting out there sells. So they were trying to tie into the new movie, and of course, the new movie couldn't make up its mind on when it wanted to be released, and that screwed up publishing schedules. And then they decided they didn't want to do books based on the new movie, even though they said they wanted to do books based on the movie. And we could talk about that all day, but I don't have all the facts, and all I can make is educated guesses based on what I saw from where I was sitting. But finally, though, they decided that somebody decided to take a chance. Like Christopher was the guy they decided to let have do it, and from what I understand, the book's been very well received, and he's already working on the second one. So
excellent news.
Books take time. I mean, it takes about a year from a book to go from actually close to 18 months from the time somebody pitches the idea to the time you get to buy it. It's about 18 months.
Do you see the same kind of paradigm shift, though, with regards to how books are going to be delivered in the future as we are with the other forms of media?
I mean, as far as digital and all that, not unless more people start buying that shit. So, well, I mean, hey, everybody can talk about how great ebooks are, but I'm looking at my royalty statements, and I know where the sales are versus ebook versus paper book, and I know where my money's coming from.
Well, that's great.
And it ain't the ebooks. So at least not. I mean, it is, but it's a small percentage of it. Everybody's like, the ebooks are going to take over paper books. Don't hold your breath. Okay. The the biggest problem is the fact that people are buying their books online or via the internet. They're not walking into a store anymore as much. Okay, but people are still buying them. They're just not buying them the old-fashioned way. However, what I am seeing is an interesting renaissance because I see my book more places that are not bookstores.
I saw you post a picture where your book was at a drugstore.
My book was at CVS. It was at a grocery store. It was at a Walmart. It was in an airport bookstore. Have yet to see one in a Barnes and Noble. Of course, there was a thing going on between Barnes and Noble and Simon and Schuster that's just now been recently resolved.
Oh, that's good to hear.
So now they love each other again or whatever, and they're gonna start doing whatever. But I mean, during that time frame, Barnes and Noble was not either they were drastically cutting or they were not ordering Simon and Schuster titles
from Simon and Schuster.
So
Interesting.
what do you think that does to an author's sales?
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, that was the same reason when Borders was going through its death throes. They stopped ordering all but the ones that were guaranteed big sellers. So I mean, I had 2 books that Borders never ordered the first copy.
Wow.
And it's like, so fuck you, Borders.
Well, they're dead now anyway.
Well, yeah.
Aren't they?
Yes.
No, they're done.
Yeah.
But you want to walk to a bookstore and see. But what I never get whenever I see people,
that's just so out of my brain right now.
What's that?
Well, because Terry lives basically on Cestus 3, so walking anywhere for her is.
But I mean, my preferred way of buying a book is still walking into a store and looking at what's on the shelf and seeing what catches my eye and reading the back cover copy and going, yeah, shit, I'm going to read that. I mean, you can't replicate that experience on Amazon.com or whatever. It's just like walking into a half price books or a used bookstore or whatever. You walk along until something catches your eyes and then that's the one you're going to buy. Yeah.
Speaking of that, it's funny you say that because we have a really good used bookstore here called Wonder Books, and it's huge. And I've been going there for, I've lived here for almost 5 years now. I've been going there about 4 years. I just discovered they have a whole section of graphic novels. And yeah, so. But, by the way, Mike, I need your address. I got you something.
But digital is slowly, steadily doing its thing. I mean, it's not knocking the doors off. It's not, it's not setting any sales records, but it's a slow, steady move. So over time, it'll just like right now. It's like now they're pushing movies. They want you to buy the movie digitally, and they'll let you buy the movie digitally 2 or 3 weeks before the physical media comes out. But I don't, until I can watch a movie on my big ass TV with the same quality and high definition resolution that I get from a Blu-ray. When I can download a quality of that level, that's when I'll go digital.
Yep.
But until then, I ain't paying $25 for a compressed MP4 file. Fuck you.
I don't know. I think Terry, you might do the same. I buy them in paperback, but I also get them on ebook so that I can just take it it's a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
I buy them twice. I admit it, but that's just because I'm a book whore.
Well, my kids' college tuitions. Thank you for that. But no, I mean, I think we talked about this before. I mean, I'm almost ready to buy an ebook reader or an ebook device of some sort, or a device that lets me read them and replicates the paper look, or at least for my eyes. But the only thing holding me down is the bulk of my leisure reading I do when I'm flying. And until I can read from gate to gate without having to turn the damn thing off for 30 minutes at each end of the flight, I still got to carry a paperback with me anyway.
I want to say 2 airlines just lifted their restrictions on it.
But they'll change their minds, or not every plane will have the same rules, and you'll argue your way out and they'll get pissy, and it's like, once you guys all get your shit squared away, then I'll go buy one. But that's what I like to do. I like to get in my seat and read the book until we land, and I don't give a damn. I know where the damn execs are. I know where the oxygen mask is. I know that that my seat can be used as a flotation device. Just let me read and bring me my peanuts. And
exactly.
So
I'm ebook only.
Yeah, I mean, I do, and I have an ebook app on my laptop. I have a Kindle app on my laptop so that I can, that way I can still get stuff that's ebook exclusive.
Right.
And I can do that. But I mean, I can't carry my laptop with me, or I can, but I got to turn it off. So.
Oh, that's okay. I would have to say that the reason why I really started to do ebooks a lot was just because I traveled so very much. I was on the road easily, 2 weeks a month, and I hated and I'm one of those people that even though I'm a reader, I would always have at least 3 or 4 books with me.
Sure.
And it became the opportunity for me to carry 30 books with me, 50 books, and I love the idea that I can just, I'm not in the mood for this one, I can flip over to this one. I love having my library with me. So now I don't travel quite as much as I used to. And I find that it's still at home. Physical book is just more comfortable because e-readers can get a little heavy on you.
Well, that, and it's like I look at a computer screen all day.
Right.
And reading is still my preferred leisure activity. I mean, other than like grab assing or something, but I'm sorry, what? Did I say that out loud? But
the Kindle made it much easier for me to like read something really thick like Rehansu the Bloodwing Voyages at work than to have the thick. I mean, what?
No, I agree. I'm agreeing with you. What I like is what I'm also thinking about is, ebooks are great for reading novels or things that are text only, but I still have a number of, my library, there are a huge number of my books that have, illustrations, they have photographs, they have fold-outs, they have all sorts of stuff, and you can't really replicate that experience on an e-reader.
No, my Star Trek pop-up book on the e-reader just doesn't seem the same.
But I mean, like gatefold pictures and things like that. I mean, I don't know how they're going to, like coffee table books, they can't replicate that. So, but I mean, definitely.
Actually, they kind of can with some of the more modern ones.
Well, unless that pad can extend itself to cover my desk, it's not the same thing.
True.
But I love the idea of being able to, like you said, Terry, I love the idea of being able to take, more books than I would normally fit into my travel bag.
Right.
That kind of thing. And then I love the idea of being able to link up and grab, hey, somebody recommended me a book. I can download it to my Kindle or my Nook or whatever right there without having to remind myself a week later, I should order that book that Terry told me about. We can be sitting there shooting the shit and I can just do it while we're talking.
Do it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, so I am definitely not an ebook snob. I'm just like I said, the most time I get uninterrupted to read these days is the 3 hours or whatever that I'm on a plane.
I just had this image of Dayton and Kevin flying to some convention somewhere and Kevin reading to Dayton on the plane.
Well, I mean, like going out to Vegas, he as fate would have it, we ended up on the flight with somebody that he works with that was heading on to he was changing planes in Vegas and going out to LA while we were we were staying in Vegas, and so they ended up jaw jacking for the 3 hours that we were on the flight, and instead of Kevin and I working on our outline for the new book, they were talking for the 3 hours. So I read for the whole time, and then Kevin is kind of a reluctant flyer. He's not necessarily afraid of flying. He'd just rather not do it if he didn't have to. And so he gets into this zone where he watches something on his iPad or something to kind of take away the fact that he's a mere heartbeat away from plunging to a fiery death. So I got to give him shit about that. Well, I mean, I love the man, and he's definitely improved over the years since we started flying together, because now he doesn't have to take drugs first. Ask him. Yeah, I like to tease him about that. Like when we first started flying, he used to take Valium before we got on the plane. I'm like, dude, really? Poor guy.
Wow.
So he's come a long way now. Now he doesn't even grab my arm and scream when we take off.
I was that way for a while. I was that way. I used to travel all the time when I was younger, and then I stopped traveling for so long that when I started to travel again, I started to get a little paranoid. And it wasn't until I had a horrendous flight between Hartford and Los Angeles. It was a direct flight, when they still allowed those, right? Mm-hmm. And it was the worst storm I had ever been through. We actually had the pilot says, we're in the air for what seemed like a couple of hours. And he says, well, we're still a little north of Montreal. And I'm like, Montreal? What? I don't think that's the way towards Los Angeles. Why are we over? And it ended up being an 8.5 hour flight.
Wow,
and
that's like
as we went
to Saudi Arabia.
Oh, it was horrible. And luckily for me, though, and I was a white knuckler as well, because the storm we were flying through was so bad, and I'd never been through lightning or bumps like that, and it was just horrible. Luckily, however, a guy from the Air Force was sitting next to me, and he just looked at me. He goes, "Do you really think that?" He goes, "They fly these damn things through the walls of hurricanes. Chill out."
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. Okay.
My asshole doesn't hear you. It's puckering. But I flew out of for a time I was stationed in Albany, Georgia, which is this little podunk town in the southwest corner, and we had to fly out of Albany's municipal airport on little puddle jumpers to get up to Atlanta, and then to get on a real plane, a grown-up plane, to fly anywhere else.
A grown-up plane.
That's like Alexandria, Louisiana.
Yeah, exactly. Any flight you had to get out of there. you had to go to Atlanta first, and then you could fly on a grown-up plane. But we flew out one morning, and it was a really bad day in terms of turbulence and storms and all that. And we at one point hit an air pocket or something, and we dropped about 1,500 feet in about 3 seconds.
Oof.
And
Did you go weightless?
everybody's stomach was just like, "Whoa!"
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that's as close as I've ever come to thinking I was going to die on a plane.
Wow.
After Desert Storm, we were flying because you had to fly nap of the Earth, even after the hostilities. And I was in a Black Hawk, and the pilot did a quick juke up by about 1,000 feet, and then a juke down, and my camera actually floated above my lap for about a second as we went weightless. And I thought, this is the great, and in a helicopter. So I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, and all you're doing is counting all the things that can break off a helicopter and make it useless.
No, you know
And there's
what?
a lot of
the
them.
Black
And it only
Hawk.
takes, I was going to say, but it's like, a helicopter is basically a machine that is engineered to defy reality and the laws of physics. And it's like, okay, if one thing stops working right on a helicopter, this thing becomes a brick.
It's like a bumblebee.
Yeah, it's like kind of like when we used to go and do these landing exercises where they put us in the amphibious tractors, and these things are 20,000 pounds of metal, and they drive off the back of the ship into the ocean, and then it bobs underwater for about 4 or 5 seconds, and then pops up to the surface, and you drive to shore. And I'm like, fuck you first, man. And because literally the engines have to keep moving. If the engines stop, this thing sinks like a stone. And I'm like, great, I volunteered for this.
And just remember, it's built by the lowest bidder.
And it's built by the lowest bidder, exactly right. So yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It is, Mike. They're all built the lowest bidder.
Yeah, 14,000 parts, all having to work in synchronicity with each other, and every one of them built by the lowest bidder.
That's right.
How the hell that has to do with Star Trek books, I have no idea.
Well, and apropos of nothing, since we do this, if you haven't seen the movie Moneyball, highly recommend it. I've watched it about 20 times now.
Which one?
Moneyball.
Yeah. I actually haven't seen that yet, but I keep meaning to.
Well, the conversation about air travel made me think of it because at one point, Brad Pitt plays Billy Bean, and his daughter, the A's, are in the middle of a terrible, terrible slump, and his daughter says to him, Dad, are you going to get fired? And he's like, you're about to get on a plane. Those things crash all the time. You need to be worrying about something else. But it's a really good movie. I think everybody here
I keep meaning to see it because Aaron Sorkin wrote the script, and I'm a big Aaron Sorkin fan. So
and I really think Brad Pitt should have won some kind of award for it. He was that good at it.
Cool.
Oh my gosh! So now that
so we've been here an hour and we've talked about Star Trek books for like 10 seconds. So.
I know.
Oh, that's not true. You even got a new Frontiers shot in there. A shout out for them. Which there hasn't been a new one of those, and I don't know how well Peter's David's Health. So
I want to talk about The Seekers.
Oh, that was a great movie, John Wayne, wasn't it? Wasn't that directed by John Ford?
Yeah, because you're at minimum the 48th person to make that joke.
Yeah, I bet. No, I want to talk about Seekers.
All right, hit me.
The news came out, days, just a matter of hours before we left for Las Vegas, that a new kind of, shall we call it a spin-off series? Kind of a spin-off
that works.
Series from Vanguard, Star Trek Vanguard, will start coming out in 2014? Mm-hmm. And it'll follow the Endeavor and the Sagittarius.
Yes. For those, yeah.
I was going to say
that there were two ships that featured prominently in the Vanguard storyline. They were two of the three ships that were attached to Starbase 47. And at the end of Vanguard, those two ships were said to have been given, or were about to be given, new orders to go explore the Taurus Reach, which was the setting for the main storyline for Vanguard. Right. But now they're going to go concentrate on exploration rather than dealing with the Shaddai threat and all of that business, since that's no more. And so, now they're going to be doing more traditional exploration based storylines.
That's a shame because the Shaddai were wonderful at the VMAs last night. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else notice Daft Punk? Did you see the pictures of Daft Punk? They look like the Breen. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. I did not even. I wasn't watching TV last night.
But are you and Kevin dealing more with the Endeavor or with the?
What's going to happen is we decided that first of all, it was an outgrowth of a larger conversation between David Mack, Kevin, and myself. about what to do as a collaborative venture after Vanguard, because we kept getting questions about that. I mean, we were talking, you and I were talking a year ago about what are you guys going to do after Vanguard, and we were already talking Seekers then. We just couldn't tell anybody about it.
Oh, okay.
We started talking about Seekers in April of 2012. When Dave Mack and I hatched the idea to pitch it to Pocket, it was April 2012. And then after, because we had all gotten together, a group of us had gotten together here in Kansas City to do a weekend with just writer friends without the convention hassle. And we were out and about one day in Kansas City, and Dave was telling me about Rob Caswell, the artist on DeviantArt, who was doing a bunch of art inspired by Vanguard, the Sagittarius, the Archer class ship. And we had been milling about for what we might do for a follow-up to Vanguard, as far as not necessarily a sequel to Vanguard or even a Star Trek story, just, hey, that was fun, let's do that again, or let's find something like that to do again. And so we started talking about Seekers, or what eventually we would call Seekers back then, and then spent a good part of last summer writing a pitch, refining it, getting more, our editor support, and then pitching it to CBS. And then, of course, other priorities came on, like the fall came about. So, David Mack and I both had books in that series to write. Dave, of course, was finishing up his Cold Equation trilogy, and I was working on From History's Shadow, and so it was going to be the next thing that we did after all that was completed. That's why it took so long to go from, hey, let's do Seekers to, announcing it.
I think
it's also nice, because it also was a nice break after Vanguard, a long enough break that, like you were saying about Enterprise.
Yeah,
between the time Voyager ended and then Enterprise premiered.
Yeah, by the time Seekers comes out, it'll be almost 2 years since there was a Vanguard story, and that's a nice breather, we think. And in Star Trek time, it doesn't matter because we can pick up right where we left off timeline, or wherever we decide to set it, and then and go forward from there. But we want it to be different in tone. We don't want people thinking, oh, it's just more Vanguard. It's absolutely not more Vanguard. There might be some Vanguard references periodically, depending on the needs of a particular story, but don't expect the Shaddai sequel. Don't expect another Starbase 47. Don't expect certain characters from Vanguard that we all want to know about to come back from wherever they may have gone.
I'm interested in the Doctor. That
But as far as the three of us are concerned, Vanguard's story is done,
right?
And we're going to do something different. And these ships and their crews and their full cast of characters in their own right provided us some material to work with.
Don't you do anything to hurt Captain Katami.
No, we love Captain Katami. Who do you think killed off the captain in the first place so she could get promoted?
Well, don't you do anything. Don't you let Mac do anything to her.
No. I mean,
because we know him. He'll do it just a tweak.
Well, to answer your question, the idea is that even though we have 2 ships and 2 crews, there's one series with an umbrella title called Seekers. And so Dave is going to write the books that focus primarily on the Sagittarius and its crew, and Kevin and I will focus on the Endeavor and its crew.
The one positive that we know out of that is that Terrell will live at least through
He's
Star Trek
the only one that has a ticket punched. And also Kleisowitz, the science officer on the Endeavor, because he shows up in 24th century fiction. So, everybody else, I wouldn't get too comfortable. You never know. But again, we're trying to set a different tone from Vanguard. So, it won't be the Grim Reaper swinging his sickle, every book. Necessarily. I'm not saying to get comfortable, but definitely going to be a different approach. And we're very, the first story is going to be a bridging 2 books. And the 3 of us are cracking the story for both books together. So even though Dave's book will have his name on the cover and Kevin and I will have our name on the cover of book 2, the story credit will be all 3 of us for both books. And then from there, we'll go off and do our own thing. And then occasionally we might come back for a multi-part storyline if we decide we have a great idea.
That'd be awesome.
So, yeah,
well, I miss Nasir, but if I'm gonna have to,
but
Terrell rocks.
Dave has always had a soft spot or a special place for the Sagittarius crew, and Kevin and I liked working with the Endeavor crew from very early on. And I jokingly said it, but yeah, one of the things that we did that was not in the original pitch book was that we killed off the Endeavor's original captain so that Katami could get promoted, because we wanted a female captain.
Okay, and that raises 2 questions that I have, and both have to do with, and I know you dread this word, canon.
What about it?
The first would be Kirk said, or it was, I'm trying to remember where it was, that the Enterprise, I think it was
that women weren't allowed to be captains.
No, that's not where I was going now. See? You should apologize. that there were 12 Constitution-class ships, and the Enterprise was the only one to make it back from its 5-year mission and all of that, and that's why the Enterprise Delta Shield became the Starfleet symbol and all that. But the other is, if Terry wants to bring it up, I'll bring this up then, the whole Janice Lester argument that women were not welcome. Now, I always took that she was just way too nuts to be a captain, and that's why she couldn't have it.
Number one, the thing about the Enterprise being the only ship to come back from its 5-year mission intact or whatever, that's from a book. That's not from a movie or television episode, so fuck that. And
well, wait a minute. Wasn't it from Roddenberry's own writing of the motion picture?
Roddenberry also wrote about Will Decker having a boner when he was dealing with Ilea. So, take that as a different topic. But but as far as the Janice Lester thing, and your world of starships doesn't include women. It was a piss poor line when it was written. It's a piss poor line now. It's better off forgotten because it just doesn't make any sense in the context.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah,
I always thought it was because she was too unstable, and
I just thought it was because she's fucking nuts. That's why she's not a captain. But number one, who was the executive officer or basically the number 2 person on the Enterprise in Pike's era, he wasn't looking at a glass ceiling. I mean, the idea that she was in charge of the ship when he was off the ship implies that she's ready to be a captain. That's what a first officer is a captain in training. So what's the point going into that job if there's no chance of ever getting that job? It never made any sense.
Agreed.
Now granted, that pilot didn't sell. It wasn't part of the show's fabric when they went to production, but taking it as a whole, and now it's accepted as part of the Star Trek canon. You can't have those two things in conflict. One of them has to be out of whack, and I say ditch the Lester one because it was a stupid line. It was a stupid line right then. It's a stupid line now. Leave it buried. There's no reason why a woman can't be a captain, and we wanted a female captain for one of the ships in Vanguard. We didn't really care which one it was. It just happened that our story in Summon the Thunder provided us an opening to get a female captain in the chair, so we took it. And editor didn't care, didn't bat an eye. He's like, I like that idea.
Excellent.
I like it.
Well,
and
we
I
love
like
her.
Katami.
We do. Us. If I can't.
No, I love Katami. I think I love
Katami rocks.
I love the Katami Leone dynamic.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's already shaping up to be my favorite character interplay. It was already a favorite from Vanguard, but the stuff that Kevin and I have already mapped out for what we're going to do in the first Seekers book, I can already tell those are going to be some of my favorite scenes to write because I just love the two characters and how they play off each other. Because Leone is that he's going to be the one that's her sounding board, just like McCoy is for Kirk, but he's much more sarcastic and cynical and acerbic than McCoy. Even McCoy was on his worst day. I mean, he's going to be the one that says that has got to be the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard anybody say. He's going to be the guy that says something like that, and I can see him being that voice, in a meeting or something, like, okay, that's a great idea, but that'll help us, after the emergency that we're facing now. So let's all focus. He's going to be that guy. So
it'll be good for her.
And plus, I've always pictured her as Catherine Bell. In terms of the character template or the actor template. I mean, as far as picturing somebody in my head when I write for the character, I've always pictured her as Catherine Bell because she's on my list. And Steve Buscemi is who I picture as Leone. So pictures, yes. So put those two together and see how it goes. I love that character. I've always loved him. I mean, from the first time I read about him in the Bible and Mac had Steve Buscemi's headshot next to the character's description, I was like, I am so in with that.
Oh, that's great.
Do you expect that the Enterprise will be making appearances in Seekers?
It's possible, but not a guarantee.
Well, we know the Constellation can't.
Well, I mean, don't forget, we're picking up after the events of Vanguard, so we're talking mid to late 2369, which is that would correspond to the middle to the latter half of Star Trek's third season, the original show.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The Constellation can't.
No, the Constellation cannot. Yeah,
or the Exeter.
Or the Well, I mean, the Exeter could if it's been repaired and recrewed, but
that's true.
But the Defiant can't be there because, goddamn, what happened to that ship?
I wonder.
But I mean,
well, you know what? The whole question earlier about the 12, and weren't 3 of them destroyed in the Ultimate Computer?
Well, at least one was destroyed, and 2 of them may have been repaired. But we got enough characters to deal with. We don't necessarily need to see another ship just because. If we do bring in another ship, it'll have to be organic to that storyline. And Kirk's mission still goes on for about another. I mean, in the timeline, it goes on for another 9 months to a year, depending on how you want to fudge it, because according to Voyager, it ended in 2370. So, but there's no hard date for when it started or ended. So, we've got some wiggle room for the Enterprise. And it's also one of the things we're also thinking about doing is we're starting to get into that gap where we transition from the aesthetic of the original show to that of the first movie. So there are, what I'm saying is there are upgrades in technology to deal with. There are, upgrades in systems and things like that that can be explored. Like, I mean, one of our running jokes is Leone gets told he's going to be, checking out the little belt buckles, that are supposedly medical scanners or whatever that are attached to your uniform, and he's, that'll just make his fucking day. Oh, great. So I mean, we just joke about stuff like that, but I mean, it's not like they're all going to run off and fight V'ger or something. So it's just things to be aware of, because it's not an area of the timeline that's gotten a lot of attention, except for just a couple of books here and there. But we've got we're wide open, and plus there are still everybody that was a player in Vanguard as far as the bad guys, Klingons, Romulans, Tholians, Gorn, whoever you want to bring up, they're still around.
Are you going to make a pit stop and see? Are we going to see Chitenian at all?
I don't know. Like I said, one of the things that we talked about was, who, if any, among the core cast of Vanguard is can we bring back? But we want to avoid that kind of stuff, at least early on. We want to at least, if we do that, it's going to have to be a story related reason and not just because. And we will do it after we are satisfied that this series has found its own footing.
Well, I'm looking forward to it in such a big, big way. It's just a refreshing, like I told you, TOS in that era was just never my bag until Vanguard. And now I'm like, to the dark side. I'm in. So I'm excited for the books to come out. I'm excited to continue on following the crews that I really did fall in love with. And I'm excited that you guys, and I'm also happy that you got to sit down and talk to us about it and kind of explain to our listeners how long these processes can really take.
Yeah, I mean, every time somebody said, well, what are you working on now? Are you guys going to do anything after Van? I mean, we had to bite our tongues. It's like, yeah, you never know. And then
question for you, because you're talking about the process. Who is your editor, and can you explain to our audience, because how many people, because of all the books that are going on, is it one editor for all of them? Is there a group of editors? How does that whole process work from you submitting your draft to it finally being on the shelf?
There is one in-house editor. His name is Ed Schlesinger. And he's the senior editor for that department. Has any number of editorial assistants or other, I guess junior editor, but that's really not the right title for that person. And then of course, then they may employ a freelance editor or two, depending on the demands. Because in addition to Star Trek, he also oversees any other tie-ins. So any of the stuff that comes out of the Blizzard Games universe, or any of the other movie tie-ins, or things that go through pocketbooks, he oversees that. So he may be overseeing the efforts of several other editors in addition to doing whatever it is. So it's not just one guy and all he does is read manuscripts all day. Think of him as a showrunner on a television series, and he is orchestrating or overseeing efforts of numerous individuals. I deal with a freelance editor who's I'm not at liberty to name that person. So I do my most, as far as my direct day-to-day dealings with as far as my outlines get approved. I talk through any plot points, any questions I might have about scheduling or contracts or any of that kind of stuff goes through that person, and then it's anything that needs attention from in-house gets taken care of by Ed. And Ed is the one who communicates with CBS licensing. So like when I send in my outline, they all get a cut on it, and then when they're happy, and when I say I mean it's a general process. I'm sure it's very similar for all the other writers. Ed sends it to CBS licensing so that John Van Sitters or whoever he designates can review it and either approve it or reject it or request changes before approving it or whatever. And then once the outline is greenlit, that's when I get a contract, generally speaking. And I mean, there are situations where I've gotten a contract and then submitted an outline later. Depends on the individual project. And at this point, I've been doing it long enough now where most of the time I get a contract months before I even turn in an outline. But it just depends on the situation. It depends on the editor and the relationship that you have with that person. And Kevin and I have been doing it long long enough, and people like Dave have been doing it long enough where that, they know generally that unless barring something really stupid or just outlandish, we're going to be good for delivering an outline that's pretty much hitting the mark of what they expect, or what they want for a particular project. So
It's a comfort level thing.
it's a comfort level thing. Yeah, exactly. It's it wasn't always that way. We had to earn it. We had to work our way into that level of trust. But it's nice to know that, when you get a call from an editor, hey, can you write are you interested in writing a book for me for, let's say 2014? And I say, sure. I know a contract is coming. I can almost guarantee that unless, some other weird event happens, it's 99% assured that I'm going to get paid in 2013 for a book. So wasn't always that way. But
yeah. Well, Nick, do you want to tie things up, my dear?
All right. I had one more question, though.
Oh, good.
Is there another series or IP that you would, if they offered you to do a tie-in novel, like, there's Splinter Cell has their books and there's other TV shows. Is there something that is like on your list that you love to do?
Yeah, but that answer changes. I guess it depends on what I'm nerdy about from any given time. I would love to, if somebody decided they wanted to, like for example, in the comics, they've redone the $6 Million Man concept. They've updated it, and now it's called the Bionic Man in the comic books. If somebody wanted to do a series of books that updated that premise, either as a tie-in to a movie or a television, or just because they decided to update the concept on its own, I would love to do that.
How about a story for the comic? Would you want to do that? I'm not a comics writer, so I don't necessarily. It's not a given that because I write, reasonably well in one medium that I will that skill will translate to another medium. I don't consider it a foregone conclusion. I wouldn't go to an editor at a comics publisher and say, "Hey, I write tie-in fiction for novels. Can I write a comic book for you? Because I must be awesome." It's a different skill set, a different set of talents, and not everybody translates from one to the other. Does that make any sense?
Of course it does.
I don't. In other words, I don't view it as a given that I should be given a shot to do this because I do something else in another arena. I mean, if I was going to pitch a comic book to a publisher, I would because I have acquired what I believe are the necessary skills to do it correctly. That said, if they call tomorrow, that said, if they call tomorrow and go, "Hey, we love your Star Trek shit. You want to write a comic book for us?" I'll be like, "Oh, sure, I'll give it a go," because that's on them now,
Right.
But
Okay.
But yeah, given the opportunity, I would. Yeah, sure. But I'm not gonna walk up to a guy at Comic-Con and go, "I want to write a book for you, a comic book for you," because I write Star Trek fiction.
Right on. I do have one more quick question. As I mentioned earlier, I'm reading from History Shadow. Did I tack a couple references to Vanguard in there?
No. What are the odds that would have happened?
I'm just wondering because
Not only would you find Vanguard references, but you probably would find at least one reference to a Larry Niven story. You'll probably find a reference to Eureka. You'll probably find a reference to Warehouse 13 if you really pay attention.
Very cool. So
Great way to have him give away spoilers.
Yeah, but Vanguard, I cannot imagine that happened. Actually, I think not only is there, there's at least a couple mentions of Vanguard because I mentioned the Taurus Reach. And I think I mentioned the Endeavor, but I also referenced there was something else I referenced that I forgot about. I don't remember the circumstances, but I'll drop it in just because.
Because you can.
Well, Dayton's new book from History Shadow is now available. So if you haven't picked it up, why the hell not? Do it.
Exactly.
I couldn't have said that better myself.
You want to know what's so cute though? Is I asked Alan because we received a copy of the new book and Dayton signed one for Alan, and Alan, he handed me his book. He goes, "Here, put this on the shelf and make sure that you don't crack the binding on it." I'm like, "Okay, are you going to read the book?" He goes, "Yeah, I already bought it down." He goes, "I just bought an ebook of it so I can read it." I was like, "I got him!" Sweet.
Right on.
Now you know.
I mean, I do it just because it's easier for me to read, but you do it because you're OCD about cracking the spine of a book.
It is true.
But here's the question. When you're at the bookstore and you're looking at the book you're going to buy, do you go through all the copies they have of that book to find the one that you think is the best copy of that book?
Yes.
Okay, you and I are of like mind. I will do that. In fact, I have put the copies of the book back on the shelf because I think I could find a better condition copy elsewhere.
See,
Yep.
you guys make me
If
want to
the
go
print
into like
is
Barnes and
offset,
Noble.
I don't. Yeah, no, I'm.
You make me
horrible.
want to go into Barnes and Noble and just start opening the books to crack the spine on all of
Oh
them.
my God! I'd never buy one.
Well, no, I mean, cracking the spine, sometimes you can't avoid it, but like when you go to the bookstore and like they've run the razor across the top corner or something because they were
Oh, yeah,
careless when
that's
they open the
horrifying.
box, or
Yeah.
the spine has a couple of like the corners are dinged, so you can see the underneath, that kind of thing. That drives me nuts when it's a brand new book. And that's, if I have a pet peeve about bookstores, it's that they will put a book that looks like it's been read by every prick who's ever walked in that store back on the shelf and expect me to pay full price for it.
Yeah.
Like somebody will walk in and they'll buy a cup of coffee and then they'll sit in the bookstore and they'll read the damn thing every day, a chapter a day until they're done, right? And then they'll wipe their ass with it and put it back on the shelf. And I'm supposed to pay $8 for it. I'm like, that's the only thing that pisses me off about bookstores.
No, I'm really bad. I'm picky.
Same thing with
So-
magazines. I'm like, what is this?
No, I
Oh.
like to go to the coffee shop in the bookstore and get the stickiest drink I can, and then go thumb through the magazines and leave fingerprints through them.
Yeah, I would like a caramel apple and your newest copy of Hustler magazine. And a napkin.
And a sticky bun, please.
And some privacy.
I don't really do that. I need to put this out there. I don't really do that.
Well,
Oh,
God.
I read the ebooks because I like to read in bed, and there have been many times when I fall asleep with a book and end up in the next morning with it like ripped in half underneath. It's like,
You slept your face down on the cover at the corner, so you got a crease down your cheek or whatever.
See, the problem
Exactly.
is though, is that the way
Drool's all over
I
it. It's
read,
just all
if I
bad.
fall asleep, a light book falling on your face isn't so bad, but having like like a half-pound
Like these
piece
are the
of metal.
voyages.
How the hell are you all holding these books? I mean, are you like laying flat on your back and holding it up above your head?
No,
know, that's what I'm
well,
I mean, I
that's-
sit up in bed and I read. So
Yeah.
the worst thing that could happen is it falls on my lap and smacks me in the junk. But I mean, I'm just trying to picture the configuration that's required to get face blasted by a book in the middle of the night.
yeah, I read laying down.
same.
And I mean, and then of course you read in the tub though, so you're
That
always
is
worried
true.
about that's why you use the physical book. So
Is it? Well, yeah.
go on.
I read my ebook in the shower.
And I have multiple towels so I can keep my hands dry so I don't warp my book.
Isn't that just too much work?
I know. Yeah.
Seriously, Terry, isn't
No,
that just
because
too much work?
no, because it serves a dual purpose as well. If I keep my hands dry, then I can lift up my glass of wine. Just saying.
We are one high maintenance podcast, let me tell you.
Kidding. I mean, I mean, if I'm going to go to all that trouble to drink wine while I'm in a tub, I'm going to hook up one of those tanks with a little tube like they have in hamster cages, so I can just lean over and
Or wear
And-
the batting helmet.
yeah, or just get an IV and be done with it.
Yeah.
So
See, the only time I have candles and wine in the tub is when I have the prostitute. So I'm kidding, Janice. I'm kidding.
And on that note,
I'll hear
Yeah.
about that in the show notes.
yeah, you will. Love
is
you,
she the one
Janice.
who transcribes the show notes for you now? Is it her? Who makes the show notes for your?
Mike does.
That's me,
Sorry.
Oh,
but
okay.
I may be hiring Janice.
There you go.
Steve rocks. All right. Thank you, Dayton. Thank you for joining us yet again.
We always appreciate your company.
You're a
Oh, it's
trooper.
a lot of fun. It wouldn't be a G&T show podcast without at least 17 squirrels in the conversation.
Yeah, very true.
Hey,
I think-
we got
did we-
complimented this week that our live show actually did not have a lot of squirrel chasing. I thought we did, but the ombudsman said we didn't.
We tried to control ourselves. We're trying to be better, sorta.
For
It's
a
you.
week.
It's you. So
Oh,
we
it's
have to
me.
put a-
It's
we have to
always
put a-
me.
We have to
Right.
put a lasso on you.
Didn't you
All right.
once chase a squirrel while reading an Ask Dayton that talked about chasing squirrels? Didn't you do that
Yes.
once? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
admit
don't.
it.
Yeah. No. I mean, no. Nick was reading it and it
Oh,
stopped
Nick,
and
yeah.
went off on a tangent. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell? So,
Yeah, that's him.
Hopefully the Ask Daytons will continue this week. I know that I've got a question
You
in
hear
the
this,
queue.
people? You hear how they're putting it all on me? Like they never
know.
chase a squirrel.
oh, I do.
I know, but-
I'll own mine. That's not a problem.
It's been months since I brought up the leader of Thailand.
Thinking
So
that.
yeah, Ask Dayton. Are you going to try to get?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was my fault last week.
No, it's all right. I mean, stuff happens.
In other
I'm
words,
sure-
get on it, Nick.
Are there any in the queue? I'm just curious.
There are.
Because for the longest time I figured out it's just you and Mike flipping a coin for the rest of
No,
our
no. There is one in there involving you losing your virginity.
Well,
that one
okay,
is
then.
not the one that I submitted.
Are they hoping to be the
God.
one who takes it, or are they
Dude,
are
you
they- are
got
they-
children. How could...
Well, that doesn't necessarily rule out somebody asking a dumb question.
Well, not with our
You
group.
just You never know. Losing my virginity. Okay. Well,
Who's yelling at me in the chat room?
I'm probably not going to answer it truthfully. You know that, right? I'm probably going to make
that's
up
the beauty
something.
of it.
Okay. Just check.
That's what we love about you.
I'll start thinking about that because
Make it up, bud.
to be appropriately epic. By the way, I went in there looking for an Ask Dayton. I was trying to remember the question and how it was answered because somebody was talking to me about it, and I went digging because I couldn't remember which one it was. And holy shit, there's a lot of those things in there.
Yeah, I know. You thought it would only last a
book.
couple of weeks. It's people tune in just for it.
I think we got enough for a book now.
As a matter of fact, we got kind of harassed in the chat room for not having one this week. It's true.
I think we may have enough for a collected edition.
I agree.
Some of them, I don't think they all fit. Some of them are like don't need to be in there because of like the sports predictions and crap like that. But it's like for the most part, collect them, group them up into categories based on because you can probably name about a dozen different silos that they fit in. This is a list. This is a writing question. This is a Trek question. This is a you got to be fucking kidding me question. Go on down the line, and then I think it could work. I think it. I mean, if it maybe an ebook thing. Maybe I'll put an ebook together and then just throw it out there.
Speaking of which, let's get a prediction from Dayton. Preseason's almost over. How are the Bucks going to do this year?
I have no clue, dude.
There you go.
I don't. Just from what I've seen, I'm just like I do not know. I'm not a big fan of the coach that they've had. This is the second year now. I'm not a big. I just don't know. I mean, I try not to put too much stock in preseason because of what they're trying to do. But like for example,
half people are trying to keep their jobs, and then the other half are trying not to get injured.
Look at the brain fart the Jets pulled this past weekend.
Past weekend.
Well, but I mean, this one is an egregious error because they put their starting quarterback in late in the game behind a third string offense, and he got injured, and he may not come back.
I'm thinking that's by design.
That's a shitty way to lose a job, man. But I
really think they didn't want him starting anymore, so
you fire him. That's what most people in charge
They can't afford to. The contract is too big.
That's horse. Well, congratulations. Now they get to pay him to sit on the sidelines and eat bonbons all summer. No, that's
now I'm going to make a bold prediction here. You're going to hear it here first, and I'm totally sincere in this because I am an NFC East fan. Being a Giants fan, I am going to predict that the Eagles win the NFC East this year, and I'm not joking.
Wow.
Because Chip Kelly's first year, nobody's going to have film on him, so the first quarter of the season, they're going to just explode on people.
Ew.
And then they maintain.
They need a towel for that, huh?
NFC.
Cowboys, Giants.
Yeah,
Eagles.
Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, Redskins, right?
Yeah.
I just know that we'll probably all be making Cowboys jokes in 3 months.
Well, 3 minutes. Are you kidding? That's my favorite thing that I've seen lately is a tornado. If it touches down in Dallas,
I gotta be honest.
Needs to go into that stadium because
I'm not a Giants fan per se. I'm not necessarily a Giants fan per se, but I am a Tom Coughlin fan. I've always liked him as a coach. And so I mean,
he scares me.
He doesn't scare me. He's kind of
the only reason why he scares me is because he's like one of those people that I look at and I think he's either a walking stroke or a heart attack waiting to happen.
I don't know. I think he seems to be
or
one
an
of those
aneurysm.
coaches.
I'm not sure, Rich. I think he's going to be one of those guys who just dies right on the sideline. Boom.
Maybe, but I don't think it's going to happen for a while. He's one of those coaches that seems to straddle old school coach and the new school coach in terms of demeanor. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a taskmaster and he's definitely no bullshit, but he got a way about him that just inspires the players. I've always liked him. I liked him when back when he was coaching Jacksonville.
Yeah.
What he did in Jacksonville for right up to their second year. They were a game away from going to the Super Bowl. So I've always liked him. Who's coaching the Eagles now?
Oh, I can't remember his name.
I mean, because Andy Reid, we got him. He's in Kansas City now. So I don't know who's coaching. I forget who's coaching the Eagles. I mean, I don't know.
I had a conversation with somebody about Coughlin, and this is quite indelicate, but never mind. I'm not going to say it.
Don't tease me like that, dude.
No, I'm just saying, like Terry was saying about how he always looks like he's on the verge of a stroke. You just know that guy hasn't had a full massive BM in decades. It's like little rabbit pellets. He's so tight, he's so
it's like the guy that used to coach, the guy that coached here in, was it Kansas or Kansas State, the football coach? That guy was like 400 and something pounds. I mean,
I love that guy. The guy,
Mark, is it Mark Mangino? Is that his name?
Yeah.
But I mean, he looked like, because there was a joke running around about how because he was one of those authoritative coaches where he'd like get in your grill and stuff. And he was like poking a player in the chest one time, and somebody took the picture and captioned it, and basically it was like, he's not poking poking him in the chest. He's checking to see if he's tender. Because it looked like he could eat the guy. I mean, but he would look like he was like one bag of Doritos away from a full-on coronary. And I don't know what happened to him. I think he's retired now, but he scared me. I mean, in terms of a health problem, I just worry about.
He's the governor of New Jersey now.
Yeah, there you go. But I like Tom Coughlin. It'll be interesting to see if he can pull it off again with the Giants.
I'm hoping that we get to see Mike Shanahan blink this year.
And poor Mike's in the corner just going,
I don't like football, right?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Well, sorry, dude. It'll be over in February.
It's fine.
I like football. It's the one sport I look forward to every year. I'm not much of a baseball fan.
I used to play, and it was just, I played high school football for a year, and it was too violent, and it was just not for me.
I used to like basketball. I used to watch college and pro basketball. I used to follow it, do the brackets and whatever, and I just kind of fell away from it. And football's always been the sport that I've loved to watch. So even though I never played, because I was a scrawny little shit when I was a kid, I never played football. I never had the size for something like that. But I've always loved to play. I mean, I used to go work. I used to work at Tampa Stadium back in the old days as a stadium vendor during the Bucs games.
I was always afraid that I would hurt somebody because I always had the size. And
I was always afraid that I'd be eaten by one of the bigger players.
But any great vendor stories?
Just, some fans were dicks and some fans were awesome. I mean, there were times, back then I would think Cokes were going, there were 20-ounce Cokes, they were going for like 75 cents. So usually, the standard tip was, you keep the quarter or whatever. But I'd go up to the top level, where all the drunks were, because they were bringing in flasks stuck in their waistbands or in their socks or whatever. And they would mix Jack with Coke or whatever. And, I get a $5 bill for a 75-cent Coke and told to keep the change. Or they'd buy the whole tray. Or they'd buy the whole tray, and they say, if you can come back in an hour, we'll do it again. And
was this the sombrero at the sombrero?
Yeah, the old sombrero.
Yeah.
It was the big sombrero. I used to make boatloads of money. And I was 14, 15, years old. So I was coming away with $100, just in tips. And then I got a cut of all the stuff I sold. So, and I was in a scout troop, so we were earning money for like equipment and travel and going to those camporees and whatnot. But in addition to paying for all of our new tents and cooking gear and all that, we all got pocket money. So it was the best job I ever had, short of working at the swim and tennis club where I got to see all the hotties by the pool every day. So, I lived in Florida, man. So
Dayton the pool boy. I feel an
Dayton
animated
the pool
series
boy.
coming on.
Yeah, Dayton the pool boy. There may be a story there somewhere, but
right on.
I won't tell you what I was doing.
I never saw your ad. I don't know. I might still have one of your movies. I might still have one of your movies, though.
Lest you forget, I was an equestrian.
I might still have one of your movies.
I was a snob. And I rode horses, and I was an Air Force officer's daughter. You tell me what I was.
Oh my God! Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, never mind. Wow. Stopping enlisted guys on the base because we didn't salute the blue sticker on your car. Fuck you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I know, right? Oh,
yeah,
because
right.
she did so much to earn that salute.
I know.
Loathsome. I was a soccer and hockey player.
The only sport that I ever played that I was any good at, I tried to play a little basketball and I tried to play some volleyball and I sucked at, I didn't suck, I just was average. I didn't have any particular standout talent. But the one sport that I loved to play just for the fun of it, maybe you've heard of it, it's called Ultimate or Frisbee football.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I used to love to play that sport. I learned how to play that when I was stationed overseas.
We used to do that every Thursday at Fort Bragg for PT.
I used to play that. I used to play the shit out of that game. I was even in a league for a while.
Christ, 90 minutes of that and you're just done.
You are done, yeah, because it's basically all the elements of soccer, basketball, and whatnot combined, and running, sprinting back and forth. But yeah, that's the only game that I ever liked to play and had any real skill at.
You could tell when somebody was totally gassed because they would just stand down at the end yelling, "Throw it to me! Throw it to me!"
Yeah, so that's the only sport I ever really liked. Yes,
that was me.
Fuck it, we're all just gonna throw the bomb, So yeah.
Why'd you throw it out of bounds? Because I have less energy than you. But at least I'm trying, you prick.
Because it's windy, you prick. Come closer. Yeah.
All right. We'd like to thank our special guest. Oh, he's not special. Is he a special guest still?
He's always special.
Okay, but that's a different kind of special.
He's special to me.
We have a nice short bus that brings him to the studio.
No, not that kind of special.
Is it a party bus? Does it have a stripper pole in the back? I'm good.
It's got a stripper pole and it's got a pool in the back.
All right, I'm down.
And our special guest, Dayton Ward, the lovely Dayton Ward.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's always fun.
And Terry, do you have that?
I'm still thinking about a bus on like hydraulics, low riding on Whittier Boulevard now with big spears in the back. Just sounds like fun.
With the bouncer, like the bouncing shocks or whatever. Oh my God. Man.
Well, are you guys going to help support me then with my petition I'm sending to the White House to get Lowrider made into our national anthem? Just the image of the Olympics alone, of our flag going up. All my friends, the rider. As the women's figure skating team is standing there.
Oh, yes.
Let me know when that petition goes up. I'll sign that one. Did you see this petition for a guy who wants the studio to replace Affleck as Batman?
Yes, they did a White House petition.
They did a White House petition. I mean, this is what's wrong with our fucking country.
Do you think Obama looked at that and went, "Man, I really rue the day I ever put this thing together"?
I just remember when there was a while there where people were putting up all kinds of crazy ass petitions, like build a Death Star, and
that was funny as hell, though.
Yeah,
the
but nothing
response
wrong
on
with
that was
that.
great.
I mean, there was a bunch of them, and then of course there's all the ones that are political but yet woefully misguided. And it's like, dude, those are funny, and I don't want to open that can of worms, but it's just like, okay, this is what's wrong with you are a testament to the quality of our public education system.
So I guess the one that I'm starting also to not have JJ do any more Star Treks is not exactly.
Not cool.
Well, you go, Roy. You go. I'll be here and watch it.
I wouldn't do that. Like I said, we said Sunday. If it had just been John Harrison, that movie would have vaulted 5 spots in my eyes.
Yep, agreed.
I can agree with that. I think that Khan did not need to be in that, or at least the character of Khan did not need to be in that.
Agreed.
And that's as much as I'm going to say about that.
There we go.
Well, thank you
So,
again
Mike,
for
do you
joining
have
us.
anything?
All right.
Oh, I just wanted to thank Dayton. I mean, it's always an honor and a pleasure. So
Thank you, Mike, for being the only one of the 3 who's actually read the new book. I appreciate your loyalty. It will be rewarded.
I am finishing These Are the Voyages, which I started before your book, Mr. Man, because I wanted to give yours all of the due process it deserves.
Okay. Nice save.
Thank you.
We'll ask him again in a week.
Yeah.
Cool.
Bite me. All right. Dayton, thank you very much. Terry, just wrap this up for us.
Once again, I'll be wrapping this up. We'd like to thank Mr. Dayton Ward for sharing his evening with us, as crazy as it has been.
Oh, wait, one more thing. No.
And that'll end it up for this supplemental log. This is Tara Lynn. Say goodbye, Michael.
Kapla.
And say goodbye, Nick.
Goodbye, Nick.
No, the way you sign off.
Oh, Joel Ontro.
Very nice. Have a great one, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
G&T Show is a Busy Little Beaver production.
Music for the G&T Show is provided by Warp 11, Grethor, 5 Year Mission, and Andrew Allen's Smooth Federation.